let me ask you this, Craig. If a person, and many Christians do this, of course, wears a cross to celebrate Christmas and Easter, are they going to hell?
Well, again, my job is not to judge anyone's salvation. I can tell you that Yeshua came to tabernacle with us, which means that his birth as a child, in accordance with Isaiah's prophecies and with the prophecies throughout the Old Testament, took place at the Feast of Tabernacles. That's, by the way, when the millennium will begin, is the Feast of Tabernacles. So it occurred during the Feast of Tabernacles, which, depending on the year, is either September or October. Christmas is an entirely satanic holiday. Its roots, I mean, anybody can get a dictionary, get an encyclopedia, look up the roots of Christmas. It was imposed by the Catholic Church because the principal religion of Rome was Mithraism, and they celebrated as their principal holiday Ishtar, the impregnation of Mother Earth and the sun god through the elongating period of time.
So you
should, if you're a Christian, and now you've heard this,
you're obligated.
It is your responsibility to stop doing it as a religious holiday and to learn the truth. The truth is the essence of Yahweh's prophetic message, and his message of salvation is encapsulated in his 7 mikra. Most Christians haven't a clue what mikra means, and they don't know what these 7 feasts are. But the feasts begin with Passover. There's unleavened bread, first fruits, and the Feast of Weeks, trumpets, atonement, and tabernacles. And every prophetic event throughout history in the plan of salvation, including Yeshua's appearance, are all manifest in these mikra, and these are appointments that we are to keep for all eternity. Now, today we celebrate them prophetically as dress rehearsals, as parables for what he did on the pole, but that's what we should be celebrating. We should be celebrating the Feast of Tabernacles and Atonement and trumpets and Passover.
Let me ask you this further question. It seems like I read something, because you mentioned the word impregnation, I don't know, the Queen of Heaven or Mother God. Is there some relation to a steeple on top of a church in that?
Yes.
What is that relationship?
The steeple and obelisk are the same thing. They were created in the sun god religions. The first sun god religion was created in Babylon by Nimrod and his wife. And virtually every religion since then has mirrored his creation. And the reason that there were steeples and ziggurats and obelisks is that they were the first thing to catch the sun's light in the morning and the last thing to catch the sun's light in the evening. That's the reason why you've got pyramids, ziggurats, obelisks. In fact, the Scripture specifically talks against those things and says that they are satanic.
So you would consider a steeple on a church satanic?
That is correct. A steeple is something that has 100% satanic origins. It has nothing to do whatsoever with the Scripture teaching in the Old or New Covenant.
I guarantee most of our listeners never heard that if they didn't click off.
That's true.
Everybody you need.
Yeah, they have no idea. Yahweh only has one symbol. Only one symbol.
Which is?
Words. He chose to represent himself with the symbol of words. Most powerful symbol in the world.
And the Word became flesh?
That is, you got it.
And dwelt among us?
No.
No?
Tabernacled among us. That's the word.
Well, I've got to watch what I say around you, Craig.
Well, let me tell you why tabernacle is important.
All right.
That's when he was born. The Feast of Tabernacles.
Okay. Well, in the few minutes we have left, we've got a couple more questions. See if we can get through them. What's your feeling on the Patriot Act?
Oh, I think that the Patriot Act is exactly what you would predict is going to happen to America for it to be non-existent by the time of the tribulation. By the Patriot Act, the peoples that were the victims of Islamic terror lost freedoms. And we're punished by having to stand in long lines, and we lose our rights, while the people who perpetrated the act win. So it's the worst thing we possibly could have done. The thing that terror cannot tolerate is freedom. The more freedom we have, the less terror will exist. The less freedoms we have, the more terror we will have to endure. So I'm 100% anti the Patriot Act.
Okay, you can give me a yes or no on this here. Question is, do you believe that the government in any way aided or abetted by commission or omission 9/11?
Yes, we actually did something that led to 9/11. It's a fascinating story. It all involves Osama bin Laden, who did not, by the way, conceive the plan. It was conceived in the Al-Qad Mosque in Hamburg, Germany. But Osama bin Laden went to the Fahd family of warlords in Saudi Arabia right after Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, and he said, listen, I've got this jihadist group. If you'll finance me, I will protect Saudi Arabia, and I will drive the infidel Saddam Hussein out of the holy Islamic lands, because Saddam Hussein was not a Muslim. And the Saudis knew better than to trust a good Muslim, and they turned to the United States. And so Osama bin Laden became enraged that the birthplace of Islam would pick this infidel nation, the United States, to push Saddam Hussein out of the holy lands. And his rage for us began right there.
And, well, did you explain is there a U.S. connection?
The U.S. connection is we should not have done what we did in Iraq in terms of defending Saudi Arabia. That was foolish. But in terms of the United States actually somehow participating in it or knowing it in advance, no, absolutely no.
Okay. What do you think is going to happen on Sunday in Iraq in the elections?
Well, they're going to vote. They will elect principally Shiites. And the Shiites collectively are going to do what the Grand Ayatollah Sistani has been saying right from the beginning, which is they're going to form an Islamic State. And they will end up unifying with Tehran. Tehran has been spending $100 million a week in Iraq to sway the elections. The Sunnis are, in essence, going to boycott the elections, which means that after the Shiites work to establish their theocracy, which they will do, the Sunnis will fight them. There'll be civil wars, which don't bother me at all. If they want to kill each other, that's their business. But the problem is it's just like Vietnam. In Vietnam, we allowed 58,000 Americans to die before we created peace with honor, but we did not realize that the signatories of the peace with honor did not share our values. And because they did not share our values, the moment we left, it was as if we had never been there. The same thing is true with Islam. Islam orders Muslims, tells them that any treaty they form, any agreement between a Muslim and a non-Muslim is not binding on the Muslim. That's from the 9th Surah. And so the moment we leave, it will be worse than had we not been there, because we will transition Iraq from a government that was fighting Iran, one of two Islamic countries with nuclear weapons, and it was run by a disgusting secular guy, into a country that will be controlled by Muslims and will be unified with Iran, which has nuclear weapons. It's the worst possible nightmare.
So are you saying that after we clean house, 7 worse demons will come in to Iraq?
Absolutely. It is. In fact, I wrote that we would invade Iraq and that this would be the outcome a year before we actually went in.
Wow.
That's the opening chapter of Tea with Terrorists, is that we would do this, and the consequence was that we would, as a nation, do what we are very good at, manufacturing our next enemy.
Okay. All right, Craig. Well, it's been great having you on the Edge Radio broadcast. In the final minutes, what would you like to say maybe about your website or what you're all about or anything like that?
Oh, well, Daniel, thank you. Prophet of Doom is where everything that I have written is available. It's all there free. There's no ads. You can't make a contribution. It's just, it is strictly information about Islam and about Yahweh's scriptures there for people who want to know the truth. And what they choose to do with it is completely up to them. The only warning I would leave is that the scriptures do not call us to be violent. We can kill deception by shining light on it. And so we need to use our minds and our words.
Speak the truth in love, but speak the truth, eh?
Absolutely. And it is not compassionate to tolerate evil.
Okay. Craig, can we have you back on the Edge Radio broadcast again sometime?
Be my pleasure.
Love to. All right. We'll talk to you again.
Okay. Thank you, Daniel.
Good evening.
Good night.